setting the table.
Yeah. All right, let's record this piece of shit. Welcome back to Absolutely the Best Podcast, A Work in Progress. I'm Zach. With me, as always, is my good friend George.
Hey.
I want to say welcome to our new listeners in Germany, Jamaica, Romania, and Isle of Man, which was a place I was not aware of. It's like in the UK between, I don't know, Ireland and England, something like that. Sorry if I got that wrong. This is Series 1, Episode 7, and today we're kicking off Phase 2 of the MCU with 2013's Iron Man 3 and figuring out where to place it in our ranking. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be at the bottom, and it will probably stay there in perpetuity. So let's get this over with. As a reminder, we assume the listener has seen the movie before, and of course there will be spoilers. If you haven't watched it yet, save yourself the trouble. This will suffice. So with that positive start, would you like to go first with the initial thoughts or whatnot?
My initial thoughts? Yeah, I think I was really excited for this when it came out. I remember being really excited because I saw the trailers with all the different armor flying around. And I think I saw that and I was like, ooh, that's going to be pretty awesome. And Iron Man 1 was so great. And, 2 wasn't so bad, I don't think. And even now, now that we just recovered
2 looks pretty good right now.
It actually, in retrospect, does look pretty awesome. But so I was really just ready for this trilogy to go out with a bang. And holy shit, I was wrong. I don't know how I described it, but this movie was like a warm pile of crap splattered against a wall by a repulsor blast was what came to me.
Pretty graphic.
But I don't know what bad movies has Guy Pearce been in. I was actually really excited to see him as a bad guy. Oh yeah, that was kind of I guess I just really liked Memento.
Yeah, he's great in Memento. I really like Guy Pearce. Even the corny space jail movie, Lockout or something like that. Yeah,
Lockout. Yeah.
Even that with Bruce Willis, it's fun. It's good. It's basically Die Hard in space. Essentially, it's like Die Hard / Escape from New York in space.
Yeah, and then I was getting really excited that the Mandarin was in this movie, so I was like, oh shoot, they're setting up the rest of the MCU. Another head fake, but at least everyone seemed to look like they were having fun with this movie, especially Ben Kingsley. I feel like he was just having fun the entire thing. Yeah. To me, this was probably the head fake of all head fakes in the MCU. Just him pretending to be this major bad guy and then just pulling the rug out from everybody. All the close-ups of his rings and then just kept on getting me. And then nothing. He never used them. But then, it made Shang-Chi that much better and that much more of a payoff because the real Mandarin there was actually a really total badass. Yeah.
I went in with low expectations when I saw it first in the theater. I was pretty put off by how much I had disliked Iron Man 2. I was in no hurry to see this one. I waited almost a month to see it in the theater. And I saw it with a couple of friends who were more tolerant of it. I remembered mostly that I thought the plot was stupid and I really hated and still hate the whole extremist thing. I might as well get this rant out of the way. You can't get organic matter glowing red hot without destroying it. It's like an impossibility. And I know it's just a movie, but it was it's too far for me. Even 108 degrees Fahrenheit can be fatal, right? You start denaturing proteins, that's a fatal fever. So that was a major plot point in this movie that I could not get past. So that really bothered me. I feel like it would have been more believable if it wasn't reversible. You could still have the regeneration, like you can grow a new limb or whatever. All that's fine. Just don't glow red hot. And then if you can't, quote unquote, if you can't regulate, you explode. Most of the story still works that way, right? And you can write around the stuff that doesn't.
Right.
So I feel like they could have fixed that, but I don't know. Maybe I'm too nerdy for it. So for the podcast, this might only be the second time I've ever watched the movie. I did own it already, so it's possible I've watched it a second time before this, and so this was certainly not more than the third. I don't like it. I never liked it, and I'm not going to. So I guess let's get into it.
Sounds like a plan.
Get into it and get through with it. Iron Man 3 is the 7th movie in the MCU series. It was directed by Shane Black, who has directed a lot of things. Amongst the things he's directed, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, another Robert Downey Jr. movie, which is really a good movie. The Nice Guys and the Predator he directed. He had a small part in the original Predator. I kind of liked The Predator. It's not great. There's a lot of problems with it, but some people say it's the worst Predator movie, and I don't think so. I'm assuming they're not including Alien vs. Predator in that ranking because that's the worst one. Shane Black also wrote all those three movies that I listed that he had directed. He also wrote the first Lethal Weapon movie and Last Action Hero and The Last Boy Scout, which are all good, if not fun movies, right?
Yeah.
Or fun, if not good movies. Supposedly he's uncredited as a script doctor for the original Predator movie, Hunt for Red October and RoboCop 3. I hope what he did for RoboCop 3 made it better, because that's not a good movie. like, was it even worse? And I think I already mentioned
that one.
RoboCop 3. Don't bother. It's not Peter Weller. It's somebody else, and it's not a good movie.
It's not the remake, right?
No. The remake I think is better than RoboCop 3. But that's not saying a whole lot. So anyways, Shane Black, more good than bad overall, I would say. And in this case, it's bad. Although I don't think it's a directing problem. I think it's more of a writing and plot ideas problem.
Right.
Screenplay by Shane Black and Drew Pearce. This is apparently the first movie that Drew Pearce wrote, or at least got turned into a movie, which I thought was unusual. He's also written Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, Hotel Artemis, which I did not care for, and Hobbs and Shaw, which I didn't see, but it looked like it might have been fun. I don't know.
I mean, it looks like he's gotten better.
Maybe.
Rogue Nation wasn't bad.
Yeah. I felt like it worked well last time to discuss the characters up top, so I thought we'd just stick with that. Good Guys, Robert Downey Jr., again, as Tony Stark, Iron Man. I feel like is a little bit unlikable in this one.
I don't disagree. It just felt like they made him on purpose more eccentric in this movie. Like they dialed it up, more than he needed to. But then, like, I saw another article somewhere that said, "Hey, like Iron Man 3 actually portrays PTSD pretty realistically." But I mean, so I don't know what to believe.
Yeah, I didn't.
Story wise, it just felt like
the PTSD parts didn't bother me. It was just he's like super a jerk in this movie,
especially to that kid.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Gwyneth Paltrow again as Pepper Potts, which I think this is her biggest part in an Iron Man movie yet.
She's been working out.
Yeah,
or she worked out for this movie.
Yeah. She had some guns on her for sure. Don Cheadle as James Rhodey Rhodes / Warmonger / Iron Patriot. I missed him in Avengers. He's probably the best part of this movie, I think.
Yeah.
Bad guys. Guy Pearce as Aldrich Killian. He's the founder of Advanced Idea Mechanics, or AIM, and the creator of the Extremist Treatment, or whatever it is. Somewhere I read like Extremist Virus, but I didn't hear that anywhere in the movie or see that anywhere in the movie.
Yeah.
I think we kind of discussed him already, but I generally like him. Stephanie, I don't even know how to pronounce this. Stephanie Sostak. Stephanie Smokestack as Ellen Brandt. She's a war veteran turned extremist assassin. I didn't know her from anything before this or after, but she was pretty badass in it for a bad guy.
Yeah. I've seen her name somewhere before too, in a few movies.
Yeah. I
just don't know which ones.
Yeah. I looked at her IMDb and nothing stood out to me personally. I didn't look that closely though. James Badge Dale as Eric Savin. And he's kind of the head extremist guy next to Killian. And I've definitely seen him in other stuff that he's been in, but I didn't recognize him. For instance, in The Departed, The Grey, and Flight. And if I watched them all again right now, I might recognize him, but I hadn't seen him that I knew of before
this.
This.
Flight?
Apparently, according
that's
to
the Denzel movie, right?
Yeah. According to the internet.
Yeah.
Oh. I think that's the Denzel movie. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Other characters, Rebecca Hall as Maya Hansen. She's kind of a bad guy. but it's a little more complicated than that. So I've just listed her in other. She's a really good actress. I really like her in The Prestige, for example. Jessica Chastain was originally cast as Maya Hansen, or I don't know if she was cast or they were just interested in her, but there was scheduling conflicts.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I thought that was kind of interesting. William Sadler is playing the part of President Matthew Ellis. I really like William Sadler. He's great in anything I've ever seen him in, but for whatever reason, I can never remember his name. It's like this weird brain fart I have. Anytime I think, I'm like, oh, what's that actor's name? Then I have to like do this whole alphabet thing to come up with it. He's often a bad guy, or, you know, at least not a good guy, like in Hard to Kill and Trespass. I really like him as Death in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Remember that?
Totally forgot that.
Yeah. We have Miguel Ferrer as Vice President Rodriguez. His character doesn't have a first name. I couldn't find, like, it's not listed anywhere with the first name. It's always just VP Rodriguez. Weird. He is always a bad guy. Hint, hint. He's a bad guy here.
He was also the bad guy in RoboCop, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Speaking of RoboCop,
yeah, exactly. And but I forget if it's Leviathan or Deep Star 6, where he like bails on everybody, and it's like an underwater scary movie thing.
I want to say Leviathan.
Yeah, I think it's Leviathan. He doesn't decompress, right? And that doesn't go well for him.
It never goes well when you don't decompress.
No. Jon Favreau returns as Happy Hogan. He's mostly not in this movie. Ben Kingsley as Trevor Slattery, and he's kind of the Mandalorian.
The Mandarin.
Sorry, I did it on accident, but I have a note. I keep accidentally saying the Mandalorian, which is more of a mouthful to say. Anyways, I liked him a lot better this time I saw Iron Man 3 because of his return in Shang-Chi. He's like really, really funny in Shang-Chi. And I think the first time I saw Iron Man, I was kind of disappointed by the twist that they had here. I was like, that's kind of dumb, but I appreciate it more this time around.
Yeah.
Anthony Mackie had actually auditioned for the role initially. Paul Bettany reprises his voice of Jarvis role. And then we have Ty Simpkins as Harley Keener, who's the kid who helps Tony out in the middle part of the movie. I feel like he's kind of a divisive character. He didn't bother me at all, but I think he's annoying to some people.
Yeah.
He does return in Endgame, but I don't know how you're supposed to know it was him because it's, I don't know, 17 years later or something. It's not, I guess it's not that many years later, but he's a lot older and you're just like, who's this one dude at Tony's funeral?
Right. It's like some teenager just standing there.
Yes. But if you look it up, it's him. All right, let's get to the main discussion. The movie starts with voiceover by Tony, and they're showing some Iron Man suits getting blown up in the Hall of Armor one by one.
I totally started laughing when I saw that. I was like, Zach's going to hate this part.
Then Tony says in the voiceover, let's track this from the beginning. And I was like, they did it again. Like, it's totally inexcusable. It was like 12 seconds of footage. And then they're like, now let's go back. I hate it so much. Just start the movie at the beginning of the movie. There was no need to do it. Start it with the December 31st, 1999, Bern, Switzerland, and then get on with it. So right off the bat, I was like, oh, I already hate this movie. I don't remember that from the first time or two times maybe that I saw it. But
I didn't either. It's like, that's why when I saw it, I was like, oh, Zach's going to have something to say about this.
Ironically, before I started watching it, I had made a note to make a joke about how they should have started the movie, in present day and then like flash back to the New Year's Eve party. And I was like, oh, I don't even have to make the joke.
Yeah. And then that flashback to, was it New Year's Eve, 1999 in Bern, Switzerland? That Blue song by Eiffel 65. Did you remember it? Was that playing when you were in college too? Because that was when that was like a really popular dance song.
I only know it from like the new version that's on the radio. There's
like a new version?
Yeah, it's
what?
I don't know. Somebody has done a new version of it, and it's awful. And I listened to the original version of it in this movie, and I thought it was awful too. So it's not for me.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, so we're at the New Year's Eve party. We got Tony, Maya Hansen, and Happy are all partying it up.
And Happy has his mullet.
Yes, his look is hilarious. He's I think he's dressed pretty much exactly like John Travolta in Pulp Fiction. He's got like the bowler tie. And
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. I think that I might have appreciated that the most out of everything that was going on in this. I had a good laugh at that.
Yeah, and then Yinsen shows up. Is this a conference that Yinsen was talking about?
It must be.
Did you by any chance go back to Iron Man 1?
I did not. I meant to, but
okay.
If it's not, why? Why wasn't it?
Right. Yeah, I was just curious of that. Maybe I'll double check it later.
So everybody's at the party. Tony's really, really obnoxious to like everyone. And at first I was like, well, this is before the events of the first Iron Man movie where he, he was more obnoxious at the beginning of that before he, had his time in the cave and everything happened. And he has a total change in life goals and whatnot.
Yeah.
But he's just throughout this whole movie, he's a lot douchier. So I didn't like that. Yeah.
And then Aldrich Killian approaches Tony and Maya about his new think tank, AIM. And man, I really just got really annoyed when I saw Aldrich Killian show up because he walks up like a reverse Rachel Leigh Cook from She's All That.
Yeah.
Like, that this dude is buff underneath all of that like fake limping and the square jawline underneath all his long hair. And I'm just like, you guys you're already just kind of pissing me off with this whole like thing you're doing here.
He played the disability to a comically goofy level. It was so bad. And I was just like, dial it back, guy. And I think the makeup department or whatever, they went a little crazy with his teeth too, right?
Yeah.
It was, oh man, it was too much.
And then they all get up in the elevator and Tony tells Aldrich to meet him. Tony just basically pulls the total dick move and tells Aldrich to meet him at the roof in 5 minutes because he loves his ideas. And
it's that's what I'm saying. Like, that's just a real asshole move. There's no, he could have handled that a lot better and not have to been like super nice about it either. But like, he had no intention of going up there.
Right.
So yeah, he's not this level of jerk in the other movies. Like, not even at the beginning of Iron Man 1. So I don't know. Maybe it's because he's been drinking. So up in Maya's hotel room, she shows Tony her extremist research, which she describes as hacking into the genetic operating system of a genetic organism, or hacking into the genetic operating system of a living organism. I think I had a typo there. And I was just like, I hate this movie so much. And she's got some plants up there, and Happy rips a branch off of one that she told him not to mess with. And then it kind of grows back in this sort of reverse burning thing. And then a short time later, it explodes.
Right.
Which I guess that's how the extremist works.
Right. Well, like that's if you're not regulated, it explodes, right?
I guess a plant can't regulate.
Right. I don't know. That whole scene was really awkward. Like, Tony's trying to hook up with Rebecca Hall while Happy's just in the next room looking at the plants. Like, what is that?
You never had a roommate?
I mean, I did, but like,
it's weird.
It's weird, right? Yep. Okay, it's not just me.
No,
okay.
It's not just you. I'm just making a joke.
And then like the whole, I know it's probably supposed to be funny, but it just came off as like really silly when Happy tackled Tony after the explosion.
Yeah.
And then the explosion was very clearly in the other room.
Yes.
So like, what were you trying to do? You know?
He was trying to get in on the action, George.
I mean, yes. He didn't jump on Rebecca.
Oh. That's assault.
Right. Sure. And then Happy leaves. They can just get to it, get into the bone zone. And then Aldrich is up on the roof where the fireworks are going off and still no Tony. And this scene looks like it's not ever going to come up in the rest of this movie. Like, there's no way that this is a pivotal moment that changes the trajectory of this Aldrich Killian guy.
I mean, how could it be?
And that obviousness just really made me go, I hate this movie.
So then we go back to present day, and there's Christmas music, which I hate. I don't know why does Shane Black have to make everything a Christmas movie? Not to mention this. Yeah, like Lethal Weapon's a Christmas movie. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Christmas movie. There's something else too, I think, but I don't know. I went and looked, and it was like 40% of his movies are set around Christmas time or something like that. It was a pretty high number. But this was released in May. It was nowhere near Christmas. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe it was delayed, but maybe it was supposed to be released at Christmas. So anyways, Tony's in his lab and he's implanting these micro repeaters in his arm for testing this Mark 42 suit. And he says something about the Mark 42, and I was like, what happened to the other 32 Marks? Because the last one I knew about was the Mark 8, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I'm not sure I did the
From
math
Avengers.
there right, but
Yeah, the first Avengers.
yeah. And the whole body modification biohacking thing, this movie is so far up Silicon Valley's ass. That really bothered me too.
Yeah. There was that one scene where Tony was telling the robot arm to start tight and then go wide. And I was just like, are you not looking at your camera? Like, how are like those 3 fingers supposed to pan and zoom? There's no extra fingers on that thing to manipulate the camcorder controls.
Yeah, and I thought that just in general, he was even being obnoxious to the robots.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. He was just being a jerk. I didn't care for it. So now that he's got these things in his arm, he can make his suit kind of like blast onto him in pieces. I thought it was kind of dumb. I'm sure somebody thought it was a cool idea. Maybe you think it's a cool idea. Sorry.
I did actually think it was kind of cool at first.
Uh-huh.
But then I do have my problems with it later, which I can get into later.
Yeah. I mean, similar to how I once said and will continue to say that I don't really like the nanobot suits, you know, but it makes for cool and important things later on in the movie.
Right.
That kind of is the case here too. Like it is kind of important to like dispatching people or saving people later on, but
right.
I don't know. It was a little.
I just don't get how they're powered.
That's
if the
huge...
power core is the
yes.
the arc reactor in his chest, then what's powering those? Like it's just little Tesla batteries.
Yeah, this is a problem I thought of quite a bit later in the movie, but a similar thing where it's in my notes somewhere. We'll get to it at one point.
Yeah.
So he's suiting up, and it's kind of goofy because it's the first time he's used this new suit. So of course it's got to be silly. I don't really like the Mark 42 design. It's got way too much of the gold color and not enough of the red.
Yeah.
I also thought that the CGI was badly animated. The Iron Man motions look really unnatural here. And I remember in Iron Man 1 especially, and even quite a bit in 2, they were using practical suits, or they'd have like the pajama bottoms where they would digitally change it. So I don't know what they did here that made it look so bad. It was around this point that I went, oh my God, we're not even 8 minutes into this movie.
And then enter the Mandarin, which again, I was really excited for this guy. I was just pretty annoyed. As soon as he showed up, I was really excited. And then I was like, oh wait, it's a white dude with a name, the Mandarin.
Yes, that's problematic.
Ben Kingsley's voice was actually pretty cool sounding.
Yeah.
In the videos. So I let it pass for a little bit, and then I think War Machine, or I guess Iron Patriot, got rebranded and repainted.
Mm-hmm.
And then I could have just done without this Joan Rivers segment that popped up in the middle of it, which I think I saw that there was an extended version of that, and holy crap, I'm so glad they didn't.
Oh, really? I didn't. Oh, yeah, I think I did. Yeah. I didn't watch any of the extras. I didn't bother.
Yeah.
But I did.
You didn't miss anything.
I did look at the list of the extras. I was like, I'm not going to bother. I wasn't bothered by the Joan Rivers segment. I have a lot of respect for her. I think kind of late in life, if you didn't know much about her, she definitely seemed like a judgmental jerk because like her show was always like talking about what people are wearing and making fun of it. But
yeah.
So she didn't bother me, but I was more put off by the Bill Maher clip that they had in there too.
Kind of forgot the Bill Maher clip.
Yeah. It was like right around the same time, I think.
Bill Maher gets kind of on my nerves too sometimes,
yeah.
So probably better that I forgot. Oh yeah, that little kid. I love you in a Christmas story. By the way, that little kid in the bar made me laugh.
In the bar, there was a kid in the bar.
There were like 2 kids asking for his signature.
Oh yeah,
and then the little kid that like whispered to him,
yes.
Did you go into space or something? I forget what he whispered exactly. But then it triggered that anxiety tech,
right?
And then Tony takes off.
Yep.
And then I think it just pans back to Stark Industries run by Pepper, which looks like a really spanking new like building and everything.
Yeah, it's totally different than anything they've shown before.
Yeah. It's like totally different from even the Avengers compounds later, right?
Yeah.
And then like Jon Favreau shows up, and man, I just love every scene he's in. I like Jon Favreau's happy.
I like him. a little less in this one. I feel like they made everybody less likable in this one, except for maybe Pepper. So yeah, Happy's now head of security. He's kind of drunk with power. He's being a hard ass about badges, and he's talking about replacing people with robots. And Pepper is rightly outraged by that, trying to explain to him why you can't just do that. And then, but to Happy's credit, he's given the ocular pat down to some sketchy dudes in the lobby. One of these guys is Eric Savin, who's there because his boss is there for a meeting.
Surprise. It's Aldrich Killian with a glow up.
He looks fantastic.
Except he's wearing dress shoes with no socks, which I just hate it when I see dress shoes with no socks.
That's got to smell terrible. Actually, I know that smells terrible because there was a kid who lived next door to me, like my sophomore year, and he would only wear dress shoes with no socks, and it stunk up the entire floor.
He should have used Extremis for some socks.
There you go, yeah.
Anyway, he does the Extremis demo, which I actually thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, Aldrich Killian says, our DNA is destined to be upgraded. And I don't know, that just seems dangerous. Just leave our DNA alone.
You don't want to be an X-Man?
I mean, if you could perfect it on someone else, sure.
Right.
It depends on what the mutation is too. I don't know. I'd want to be Rogue and suck the life out of everybody.
Or the Blob.
What does the Blob do?
Is a really huge guy that is near impossible to move once he settles down.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That sounds familiar. Something about momentum or inertia or something.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Do I get to eat a lot?
Probably.
So Happy FaceTimes Tony about Pepper talking to Aldrich Killian, and he's like, hey, remember that party from the beginning of the movie?
Oh, yeah. And then he does the whole forehead of security, which that kind of made me laugh. But
that's a good one. Yeah.
But I don't know. I think right after I stopped laughing, I was like, how could you be that close to Tony Stark and be that inept with all that technology?
Right.
It's just basic FaceTime, And he's talking really loud, and that Savin guy is 5 feet away.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh, you're a great security head of security, And then Pepper thinks Extremis is highly weaponizable, does the right thing, and tells him that Tony wouldn't be interested in it. It's a no from Stark Industries. Yeah. And then Aldrich says, I'm sure I'll see you again, Pepper. And another really ridiculously obvious foreshadowing, which I could have been just fine without it.
He's not out of the movie at this point?
I know, right?
Yeah, then we go back to Casa del Stark.
Pepper comes home. I think this is when the Mark 42 was waiting in the living room, not showing his face. And I was like, could that be? And then, yep, Tony was operating the armor remotely. So that felt really obvious to me.
I kind of fell for it again.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Pepper is obviously outraged by that. I feel like they lifted that from The Watchmen with who's the blue guy in that?
Oh, what do you call it?
What do you call
the blue guy? Dr. Manhattan.
Yes. Where, he's got 10 different versions of him. Let's just say going to work on his girlfriend while he's actually doing research.
Right. Oh, Zack Snyder.
That's not in the comics. I read the comic book. I just don't remember.
Tony tells Pepper about the anxiety attacks, and he's just kind of makes himself super vulnerable and admits nothing's been the same since New York. And the explanation of all of the PTSD just kind of came to fruition right there. I actually like this scene because, all this stuff actually makes sense now, or why he's being so weird about some stuff. Yeah,
I mean, I thought that was a good explanation. I liked it as well. Although when he says the suits are a part of me, I thought that was kind of a corny, forced line.
Yeah.
So then that night, Tony has a nightmare about the end of the Avengers with the nuke and the wormhole. Pepper tries to wake him up, and one of his Iron Man suits starts to restrain her or maybe attack her. Wasn't that clear. It doesn't go on very long. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that was was that the Mark 42? That was the Mark 42, right?
I think so.
Yeah, he did that weird finger motion, that weird ninja finger symbol, and then made him fall apart.
He's just got to teach that to Pepper just in case that happens again. Problem solved.
Right. We're back at Man's Chinese Theater for some holiday film festival goodness, and there's a creepy military guy brooding by himself next to a Christmas tree. That's not weird at all.
Nothing suspicious about that. Savin's there, and he asks the creepy military guy, "Can you regulate?" Which He's sure he can. I was less sure of it.
Right.
Savin gives the creepy military guy a briefcase and says it's a decent batch. Hap is watching. He saw all that go down, and he decides to bump into creepy military guy as he leaves. The briefcase drops, the contents scatter. They pick it all up, but Hap pockets something that he very obviously shows to the camera.
Happy, the worst spy ever.
Yes. Not at all. Not at all sly.
Right.
Savin confronts Happy as he's leaving. Hap punches in the face. Savin's face does the glowing orange-red thing because he's extremist. And then he beats the tar out of Happy. Meanwhile, the creepy military dude takes some of whatever was in the briefcase, and it turns out, no, he cannot regulate. And so he blows up. Happy's badly injured. Savin walks away as he's burn healing, and the camera shows us some dog tags from the guy who blew up. The Mandarin, it's kind of the next, they kind of cut to another Mandarin TV spot, we'll call it. He's like interrupting TV transmissions, and he takes credit for blowing up the Chinese theater.
Yeah. This particular video, I was like, oh, this is a nice distraction where they zoom in on the Mandarin's 10 rings, one on each finger, exactly like the comic books. And so I was like, oh yeah, he's going to start using them any minute now. And then just nope.
You know what's funny is I never once took note of the rings on his fingers, but I also, I mean, I now, this last time I knew about, the 10 rings, but I'm sure I saw them. I just didn't take note of it.
I knew that they were just doing it with it to mess with the comic book dorks.
Yeah.
Like me.
It worked.
Yeah, it totally worked.
So now Happy's in the hospital. He's pretty much out of the rest of the movie. Tony was staying with him in the hospital for a bit, but he leaves shortly into the scene, and he's immediately mobbed by reporters outside the hospital. Tony says he has a holiday greeting for the Mandarin. He threatens him and then gives out his home address like a fucking idiot.
I hated that part.
Yes, it was so stupid.
I was like, for a genius, that is the least genius thing a genius would do. That was so stupid.
It's so out of character.
Right?
Yep.
Did you ever try to Google Maps that address?
I did, since you put it in the notes. It definitely looks like the spot. What's funny is one of the things that comes up is a listing for the sale of the house. And it's just like a joke listing. It's like, the former owner who's an inventor, or, whatever. That was about as far as I got into it. And I was like, oh, it's just a joke listing. And then I looked elsewhere and saw that there's no house there. But what stuck out to me in this scene, no Leslie Bibb. She was in, she plays a same reporter in Iron Man 1 and 2. She could have easily been in that scene. Maybe I didn't look close enough. She just didn't ask a question. But thought that would have been
maybe she was an extra in like one of the, maybe she did ask questions in one of the extra scenes. I don't think she did though.
Maybe. I don't think so either. But
yeah.
So now that Happy got hurt, now Tony's invested. So he and Jarvis are on the case.
And that virtual crime scene reconstruction was pretty cool. It's some interesting tech to recreate a whole crime scene from all the cameras available and all the camera angles possible.
Oh, is that what? Okay, because I was like, it's the hologram investigators. And I just didn't know.
Right.
I was like, how did they come up with that? But that's a good explanation. That makes it a little bit better.
Right.
Jarvis says,
the heat from the blast was in excess of 3,000 degrees Celsius. Any subjects within 12.5 yards were vaporized instantly.
He says Celsius and then yards. Like, why would you not say meters? Tony sees the dog tags in the virtual crime scene, and he says, I don't know why he says this, but he says, when is a bomb not a bomb? And that comes up again later. We'll get to that. I feel like a lot of time could have been saved if you'd just seen the 1992 movie with Pierce Brosnan called Livewire.
I don't think I've
seen that. Oh man, I would have rather watched that again. It's a similar premise in terms of like the people are the bombs. Like there's something in like somebody's water and it makes some kind of stupid chain reaction and people explode. It's pretty dumb, but it was interesting. They are doing some research and find a previous incident with a quote unquote remarkably similar heat signature of 3,000 degrees Celsius. That's just a temperature. I wouldn't call it a heat signature.
Right.
And why are we talking so precisely about 3,000 degrees Celsius? I think they could have been a little bit more, more vague with that. I think it would have fit better. Anyways, it turned out it was some former army guy named Chad Davis who supposedly suicide bombed himself and took out some other people in the process.
I guess Tony was getting ready to go to Tennessee to check it out. But then the doorbell rings and Maya Hansen is at the door. Which brings me to, how the hell do you just walk up Tony Stark's driveway?
Yeah, doesn't he have some sort of security?
Security? Or Jarvis? Like, what?
Well, he only recently gave out his address. So
right. But like Jarvis too would have been like, hey, I don't have you in my records because I wasn't around in 1999.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely an oversight. So yeah, Maya shows up. She doesn't think he remembers her, but he does. And there's a pretty good exchange that gave me a chuckle.
Please don't tell me there's a 12-year-old kid waiting in the car that I've never met.
He's 13. No, I need your help.
And it was pretty funny because Tony jumps a bit when she says he's 13.
Yeah. I that little exchange I definitely liked also. But then like the ensuing argument between Tony and Pepper and Maya even, where they're just all getting pissy, just seemed pretty stupid. Like, I didn't understand why they had to get into like an argument. Oh, you didn't even tell me you like the bear and blah, 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 and all that other stuff. And it's just kind of like a little bit much timing wise.
It was unnecessary. They could have cut that out. I would have been fine with it. Like,
yeah.
Nobody would have missed anything.
Right.
So yeah, Maya was like, I need your help. But then she's like, I don't think you'll last the week. So she's there to help him. So I don't know, maybe she meant to say, you need my help. It was kind of weird.
Right.
Then a missile hits the house. And Tony has his Mark 42 suit kind of blast onto Pepper, which at first I thought, did he secretly implant repeaters in her? But I guess he can just make the parts go wherever he wants, because that seems to happen throughout the movie.
Yeah. I thought that scene was pretty awesome, but it also didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Because it only knows where to line up when he has his repeaters on, right? So how would it know which pieces go where on her body?
Especially because he put, I don't know, how many of those things did he put in his arm, right?
A lot.
Yeah.
And he didn't put it just on his arm. He put it on his legs too.
Yeah. So if he had only put like one in his, I don't know, in his hand or something as like a marker to, get then the whole thing would make a little more sense. But yeah, I don't know how he gets it to go wherever he feels like.
Yep.
So yeah, so he's got the suit on Pepper. Turns out she's not so good in the suit, but that makes sense. She's probably never worn one before. She gets Maya out of the house as some helicopters show up and shoot more missiles at his place. Tony's still in the house and he summons the suit back to him. He can't fly to fight the helicopters because Jarvis says he doesn't have flight power yet. And then he manages to take out 2 helicopters, even though his suit's not combat ready. One of the helicopters crashes into the house.
Yeah, this whole thing where the suit isn't he doesn't have flight power yet. It just, again, if the arc reactor powers the suit, how does the suit not have enough power to fly?
Yep.
Yeah, this movie just kept on coming up with more stuff like that.
Nobody thought about any, like somebody would come up with an idea and they'd be like, great idea. Nobody bothered to think it through. We're going to go with it.
It just feels insulting when it just kind of, they go through all that trouble to like talk about how the arc reactor powers the suits in 2 movies.
Yep.
And then they just abandon it completely.
George,
in this movie.
Some people think this is the best Iron Man movie.
Oh my God. There's no way. Really? Some people think it. Or they just hate loving it? Like,
yeah, I don't know. Ooh. Anyway,
so we get to the armor exploding from the very beginning. And we're back. The chrono anomaly is fixed.
My favorite thing.
Right?
The house falls into the ocean with Iron Man in it. He's trapped by the rubble. Jarvis has a hand come off of the suit to then like grab his human hand and help pull him out. That was kind of cool. I like that. It was an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And now flight power has been restored. How? I don't know. I guess it was the firmware upgrade he was waiting on.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
With the water that went into the arm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that too. That was something I had to overlook willfully. So now he's got flight power. Iron Man flies away and passes out. He wakes up just as the suit loses power and he crashes in some wintry place 5 miles outside of Rose Hill, Tennessee.
Yeah, and I just feel like I'm another broken record again where I'm just like, can the suit's power drop below 5% when it's hooked up to the arc reactor on his chest, which looks like it's functionally perfectly fine.
Yes. How does a suit ever run out of power? It's happened in multiple movies already. I'm pretty sure it happens in later ones too.
Right?
It makes no sense.
Yeah. And then Jarvis just powers down and Tony is dragging the suit behind him. But how did Tony close the suit if it has no power?
Yeah.
Like, I would imagine it'd be hard to close all of it properly.
Or piece it all together, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Tony drags the suit to a gas station, gets on the payphone, leaves a message for Pepper. He's going to go find the Mandarin. Then he drags the suit to a barn that conveniently has a lot of tools and stuff in it.
Right. And then we meet Harley Keener. And I do remember the dorks everywhere losing their shit, thinking that this kid was the introduction of Iron Lad, who is a future incarnation of Iron Man or Iron Kid, or
Is it
he's one of the young Avengers in the future.
like a Tony Stark protege or Tony Stark's kid, or
I don't remember really, but he's like the Miss Marvel at the end of the Marvels. He's like recruiting.
Yes.
And she meets up with Kate Bishop. Like, I guess he would be Iron Lad if she met up with him.
Okay.
There's no confirmation of any of that.
Well, is Iron Lad basically what the girl in, I forget if it was Wakanda Forever.
Ironheart.
All right, was it
in Wakanda?
Yeah.
Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where she's like, come on.
That's Ironheart.
Use your differential equations. So
right. And then that suit looks like it was made for Power Rangers.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah, we can
Give her
shit on that
something.
movie when we get to it.
Yeah.
I wanted
They
to
are
like
making it. I saw that they are making it.
Making what?
Ironheart.
Oh, they're
So
making
is-
her own
yeah,
movie?
she's getting her own movie. Yeah.
I hope. Oh,
I hope it's good.
me too. Let's see. So yeah, Tony meets Harley Keener, and the kid doesn't recognize him immediately. Isn't he kind of a celebrity, Tony?
He only saved the world.
Yeah. But then he sees the Iron Man suit and puts it together. Harley tells Tony that he's technically dead, according to the news.
Yep.
And then why was Killian trying to kill him? Because doesn't he need Tony's help?
That's the part I don't get. This whole time.
Yeah.
Like he was actually trying to recruit him, right?
That's what I thought. I guess if it's one of those, like, if I can't have you, no one can.
Yeah.
So it turns out that the kid's dad took off a while ago, and I'm gonna get up on my feminist soapbox here for a minute. The kid's dad took off on him a while ago, and I didn't care for Tony calling the kid a pussy for missing his dad. It's a slight against women to use the word pussy as a pejorative for a weak or a scared person. If somebody called me a pussy, I'd be like, thanks very much. I've been working out. Pussies are strong, man. You've sat through childbirth, right?
Yeah.
If anybody who's sat through childbirth would not use the term pussy to denote weakness.
Nope.
Like that is not the case. So
It just doesn't seem very Tony-like.
It also doesn't seem Tony-like.
Yeah.
And it's just like a shit thing to say to a kid, even if like
You're just taking pot shots at the kid's manliness.
Yeah, it was
for whatever reason.
It was really
it's
bad.
Just like, yo, tone it down, Andrew Tate. Like, just relax.
Anyways, I will step off my soapbox now.
It's understandable. And then Pepper gets Tony's secure message because she's holding his, I think, one of the helmets. And Pepper and Maya are heading out of town together. Turns out Maya's boss is Aldrich, and she says she thinks he's working for the Mandarin. And while they're driving, I'm like, this is totally gonna end well.
Yeah, I was like, how did she figure that out? But it's because she's in on it,
right? And then the Mandarin and his entourage show up with another message. And it's another close up of his rings, and I'm just like, damn you for this other fake out, damn it, Marvel. I just kept wanting that display of power, even though I didn't really like Ben Kingsley's version. But again, good fake out. You guys got me.
I don't even remember that particular message. What one was that about?
It was when like the whole entourage came in. I'm not sure, but maybe it was also the one where he shot somebody.
No, that's the next one.
That's the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, Tony investigates the Chad Davis thing. That's the army guy who blew up 6 people. 6 people are dead. There's only 5 shadows, which seemed kind of interesting.
Right. And then Har Har, he's wearing a Dora the Explorer watch there's no way that's going to come up for plucky, timely comic relief later.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You borrowed the watch from the kid. It's like his sister's.
Yeah, he borrowed from the kid.
Yeah.
It's his sister's collector's edition watch.
Yeah.
And then the kid purposely triggers Tony's anxiety attack again. I mean, he wasn't really that annoying to me, but like around this time, he started getting pretty annoying to me. And part of me was just kind of like hoping this kid better get extremis and just explode somewhere in the middle of this movie, because that would be pretty funny. Yeah. I think by this time, I was just really getting tired of this movie with all of the silver platter handouts that they were giving for the plot. I was also like, he doesn't seem to really like this kid. So why would Tony even want a kid after like dealing with this kid? Like, he wasn't the nicest guy to this kid.
I had a totally different read on it. I felt like Tony freaked. I mean, I'm not blaming Tony for freaking out, but like he freaked out on him after the kid asked a ton of questions. But that's just what kids do. I mean, he's just being a kid asking questions. I didn't feel like the kid did it on purpose. And I'm glad that Tony's actually a really good dad in Endgame, because he's really bad with this kid.
Right? I think that's what I'm saying is like, he was terrible with this kid.
Yeah.
Like, what made him think that he would be a capable father after this interaction?
I was never... I didn't even want to like hold other people's kids or like talk to them or whatever until I became a dad. So I can relate.
Okay. Well, look at you now.
I'm the best. Number one dad in the house.
Same.
Top 3 on the street.
Oh, nice. Then this goes back to, I think this particular scene is right around when I started kind of looking up, is it way too eccentric acting for this particular, like this PTSD scene? And apparently, no, it's not. It's actually a pretty accurate way to portray PTSD. And so I kind of eased up on it a little bit.
Yeah, I wonder, he must have done some research or something. Somebody did some research. Or he got
just
really
a little
lucky.
bit, because I was getting annoyed, because I was like, is this really how PTSD works? Yeah.
So he talks to the kids some more, and you find out that Harley's getting bullied at school. So Tony gives him he says it's a non-lethal weapon. It's about the size of a small flashlight. And it's basically to blast the bully in the face with it if he gets any shit from him again. I only bring that up because it's important later. Tony's going to go to some bar to meet Chad Davis's mom from Breaking Bad. Did you recognize her?
No, I didn't.
Oh, she plays like this prostitute in Breaking Bad in a couple of episodes. Yeah.
Totally missed it.
So Tony's going into the bar and he literally bumps into a figuratively hot woman. She's lightly scarred on her face, but still very pretty.
I saw that and I was like, there's no way that she's on Team Extremis, is she?
Yeah, I didn't catch it. I mean, I didn't pay attention the first time or two I saw this movie, obviously. But they obviously draw your attention to her. But it was like, but she was leaving. So, anyways.
But she was also detail oriented enough that she saw his watch and commented on it.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I was like, oh, I wouldn't have sprung for like a commenting on that watch.
So inside, Chad's mom gives Tony a folder. She was supposed to meet somebody else there. It's not clear to me why Tony knew she was there or why she thought Tony was the person she was supposed to meet. But Tony looks in the folder and he sees the name that matches the dog tags that he saw at the Man's Chinese Theater explosion crime scene. He tells Chad Davis's mom that her son didn't kill himself. He didn't kill anyone. Someone used him as a weapon. I was like, well, he still kind of killed people. Maybe not on purpose. Then Ellen Brandt comes back. Did we say that her name was Ellen Brandt? Okay. Ellen Brandt comes back. She was the one who called Mrs. Davis. So if it was a phone call, wouldn't that have been obvious that it wasn't Tony that she was supposed to be meeting there? Which seemed weird to me. Again,
anywhere near
sloppy writing. And again, like, why was she leaving earlier when she bumped into Tony?
I don't know.
Brandt claims to be Homeland Security and tries to arrest Tony and cuffs him before a sheriff intervenes.
And Brandt clearly has a problem with authority that challenges her authority because she proceeds to punch a hole through the sheriff. Oh, she punches a hole through him to grab his deputy's gun.
Yeah.
And then starts just killing everybody. And then Tony runs out and, oh shit, it's Savin.
Oh, yeah. He's outside waiting. It turns out that Brandt is also literally hot.
Yes. And then Tony fights Brandt in some nearby restaurant that's closed. And he's actually surprisingly good at hand-to-hand combat, which it looks like I don't know if you saw it, but I don't know what they're called, the wushu practice dolls that were in his garage.
Right. He
looks like that wasn't just for show.
He was like walking by once and just is kind of like bam, bam, bam.
Right?
Yeah.
That
was good.
I was like, oh, he's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool when he puts the handcuffs that he's in around her neck, and then like her neck starts glowing red, and it severs the handcuffs. That was cool. He starts a fire to try to keep her from following him into the kitchen, and she just goes right through it. And I got a laugh out of when he says,
You walked right into this one. I've dated hotter chicks than you.
And then it's the old microwave a piece of metal to create an explosion with the gas main trick, which I think they did in
in every
Under Siege, Steven Seagal, every movie in the
That's
80s.
Right.
And,
but wasn't the kitchen already on fire? Like, I don't understand.
It needed to be more on fire.
Yes, I guess so. So Brent gets blasted into some power lines, and I guess that's it for her because she doesn't show up in the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Tony's stuck under some rubble again, which seems to be his thing. Seven melts one of the legs supporting a water tower, I guess to soak Tony, because it's not like it's going to fall over on him, right?
Not like it can drown him.
Right.
Like, it dissipate pretty fast. That whole move made no sense. Like, why would somebody with that kind of power go for a water tower?
So then Seven grabs the kid, and Tony tells Harley, remember what I told you about bullies? And then the kid uses the device that Tony gave him to blind or stun Seven. It wasn't clear to me what it does exactly. It was a big flash in his face or whatever.
Right. And then that baby repulsor blaster came out of nowhere, which looked kind of cool. But part of me is like, why don't you have more of those? Like, you clearly could have used it several times by now.
Yeah. I mean, it seemed like a one-time use kind of thing, but I don't know why, because it could be connected to an arc reactor. But so Tony tells Harley to keep an eye on the suit in the barn and then takes off in Savin's car.
And the kid tells him, you're just going to leave me here like my dad? Which that kind of made me laugh.
Yeah, trying to manipulate him.
Yep.
Of course, Savin isn't dead.
This is where that extremist regeneration thing makes zero sense to me.
This is where?
Like, after the big explosion with Happy, Savin regenerated pretty quickly right after.
Right.
But then when Tony shoots at him with that baby repulsor blast, he has time to feel him up and empty his pockets and take his car keys.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm just like, what?
This movie suffers greatly from multiple inconsistencies.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I was going to make a joke about maybe he needs to be awake to regenerate. Maybe. So we get another Mandarin TV spot, and he has a guy named Thomas Richards, who's an accountant for Roxxon Oil Corp. And he's going to shoot him in the head unless President William Sadler calls him. The president does call him, but the Mandarin doesn't answer, and then he shoots the guy, but it's off screen, so he probably didn't really shoot him. Hint. We find out later he did not.
Right. And then apparently it's really easy to track the broadcast because they're like, oh, it's clearly from Pakistan, and gee, there's no way that's going to be a trap. And they send Rhodey in for the first time to track the broadcast.
Tony figures out the connection between Maya and Advanced Idea Mechanics, which is Killian's thing. He calls Rhodey in the Iron Patriot suit while he's busting that place in Pakistan. Advanced Idea Mechanics was behind the Iron Patriot redesign, apparently. And why did they do the Iron Patriot redesign? Like, aren't they a think tank?
I don't know.
So, I don't know. I guess they do weapons and marketing.
Is it like the redesign? Like, does that mean they do all the hardware upgrades?
Oh, maybe. I took it to mean like the paint job.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's why none of this movie makes sense to me.
Exactly.
To be followed up on in a few.
So Rhodey gives Tony his login for whatever database that Tony needs access to so he can look stuff up.
And his password is War Machine Rocks, ROX, in all caps. That cracked me up.
Yes. Side note, the place in Pakistan where Rhodey's at is not where the Mandarin is.
Yep. And then Tony decides he needs more power. And he needs to sneak into a news van to use the satellite feed. And this guy, Gary, and his whole Tony Stark is in my van. And I'm so conflicted with this scene because it's kind of equal parts stupid and equal parts kind of funny. And it just kind of made me smile, especially the whole Hispanic Scott Baio comment. And then
he's got
the whole
for the listener, if you don't remember or you haven't seen it, it's Adam Pally is playing the part of this guy Gary, and I like Adam Pally. And he's like, I even got a tattoo of you, and he shows him like a pretty bad Iron Man tattoo.
Right, but it was bad because it was from a custom doll that he had made.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that part
of Tony Stark.
Yeah.
I don't want to make things awkward for you, but I do have to show you. Boom!
Hispanic Scott Baio.
And they do this whole Tony needs Gary and Gary needs Tony. But and then Tony very visibly just wants to keep it at Tony needs Gary.
Right.
And Gary recalibrates the ISDNs, and voila, another successful movie computer hack.
I hate this so much. They show an IP address on the screen. I'm surprised you didn't catch this one. Or maybe you just didn't write it down because it doesn't bother you. They show an IP address on the computer screen. It's 934.554.32.3. If you're not a nerd, the reason I hate that is because the highest of any of those numbers, the highest it can be, is 255. So 934.554 doesn't make any sense. I understand they don't want to dox anybody, but they could have just picked one from the self-assigned IP address range, 169.254. whatever. Nobody would have noticed. I wouldn't have noticed. Kind of like when they use the 555 number, I mean, I guess you kind of noticed that, but this would have been even less obvious.
Yeah, I think by this time my head was like, I hate this movie.
Yes. So Tony gets access to whatever database. He looks into the Advanced Idea Mechanics program, and he sees a video of Aldrich Killian doing some interviews, one with Chad Davis, then one with Ellen Brandt. They had both been disabled in wars. He says a line like, "You are the next iteration of human evolution." I'm like, okay.
Right.
What I thought was interesting was that they showed Ellen Brandt. She had lost an arm and she had scars on her face, right? So after the extremist treatment, her arm grows back. But why is her face still scarred? And like,
because beauty is only skin deep, and she wanted to be reminded of that.
Maybe. But I was just like, even if it was like, I mean, they could have just filleted it off and then it would have grown back normal at that point, right? Like, I don't know. It was weird. The scars didn't bother me. Don't get me wrong. So he gets into the Project Extremis experiments. Some people can regulate, some can't. And then Tony says, out of nowhere, he's just like, a bomb is not a bomb when it's a misfire. And that doesn't make any more sense.
Yeah.
Then he speculates that Killian sold the flawed extremist technology to the Mandarin.
Now we're at Maya and Pepper in a motel, and Maya is giving this impassioned speech about losing her way as a scientist. Like, we haven't heard this speech ever before. And then there's a knock on the door, and there's no way that this is an, oh shit, it is Killian. He just breaks the neck of the room service guy.
Oh, yeah.
And now they have Pepper.
Room service guys get a bum rap, man.
Right.
Killian asks Maya why she was at Stark's mansion yesterday, and like, how did he know she was there?
Oh, I mean, didn't? Oh, I don't know, actually. Yeah, that's a good question.
She says she was trying to incentivize Stark to help out the Advanced Idea Mechanics. So, she is still in on it.
Yep.
I wasn't hating this part of the movie, but now I'm starting to again.
And then Brody gets sent to another wrong place to find the Mandarin, and you know that if something bad happens in the previous scene, at some point it's gonna just start happening in droves. And surprise, one of the women covered, she's an extremist person, and she disables him because they want the suit. And oh shit, it turns out that if you heat up Rhodey's armor, especially his hand, the whole system seizes up.
There's a lot of that happening.
It's like the exact opposite of the cold problem in Iron Man 1, but it makes less sense.
Right.
I saw that and I was like, God, I hate this movie.
Tony calls Harley and gets an update from Jarvis. He's located the source of the Mandarin transmissions. They're in Miami, Florida. Tony needs the suit, but the kid says it's not charging. Why would it charge? It runs off the arc reactor. Right? Here we go again.
Right? And then Tony has another panic attack, and it's just like, hey, dumbass, maybe you should have charged it with your arc reactor while you were there. But then he does the whole, like, what am I going to do? And then the kid says the obvious, like, why don't you just build something? And then all of a sudden, Tony's just right as rain, and he turns into MacGyver, and he heads over to Home Depot, and all PTSD is gone because he's in builder mode. But like, what credit card did he use to buy all that stuff?
Yeah,
that was what I was.
It's gonna leave a trace. Yeah, it looks like he's gonna Home Alone this shit.
Like, basically, right? Yeah, then I guess Tony heads over to Miami, just drives over there to find the Mandarin and to find the broadcasting center. And part of me just doesn't get, why didn't he just initiate the house party protocol while he was on the road?
I accidentally found out why, because I was looking at something else and I kind of skimmed this scene. I won't get into the exact details, but basically the rubble hasn't been cleared yet from the cellar doors at where his mansion had mostly collapsed into the ocean. Rubble seems to be the real enemy here to Iron Man. Several times he's been thwarted by it in this movie.
Fair point.
At the AIM compound, Tony's like a high-tech spy now.
Basically.
So he's like taking out guards left and right. Why are none of these guards extremists?
I mean, even not as extremists, they went down really easily.
Right?
Yeah. Like, how do you toss a Christmas tree ornament so it bounces multiple times without even shattering?
Yes.
I've lost so many Christmas tree decorations because of just one drop.
It wasn't like he was throwing it into the grass either.
Exactly.
So inside the AIM compound is that Roxxon accountant. He's not dead. So I called that one.
I don't know if you saw the goof, but maybe I was the only one that saw it because I liked his sling bag that he was using. But as he enters the Mandarin's lair, 1 minute he has a sling bag on, and then he rounds the corner and it's gone.
I did not catch that, but I'm not surprised that was your reasoning.
Yeah, but it turns out that the Mandarin is a drugged out whack job with a British accent.
Yeah, he's a phony. It's all an act. He gets paid for it. It's actor Trevor Slattery, and he's kind of hilarious. I really liked him in Shang-Chi. Yeah. He gets to live at the AIM compound and party. In exchange, he does some acting work for Killian because Killian needs someone to take the credit for all these accidental explosions. He's got a line, I think, Trevor has a line.
His think tank thinked it up.
Yeah. Did you see when the models went into the bathroom because Tony told them to go in there?
Yes. Yeah, like after.
They went, right after. After he was telling them not to.
Yeah, he's like, don't go in there for a while. Yep.
Yeah. The EU cracked me up just hearing it. But yeah, then Savin knocks Tony out.
Then Tony comes to. He's tied up to a rack, and Maya is there. She says she's close to stabilizing Extremis. She wants Tony to help her fix it.
Yeah, it looks like Maya wants to understand the formula that Tony wrote and left on her desk that one night. And does that equation even make any sense?
I'm so glad you asked because I looked into it because it looks goofy to me.
I figured you might.
Yeah. So he wrote some equation on a name tag back at the beginning of the movie. It looked like math gibberish to me, but I will also admit that I was not able to even get my minor in math. I checked out at discrete math. It got a little too weird for me. But I did look into it, and it's from a Reddit thread. Somebody explained it enough where I believe it. It's a Baker-Campbell-Hausdorff formula, probably applied to quantum entanglement here. And it describes the cancellation of forces between two systems. But what really threw me off, what made me think it was just gibberish, was the way he wrote it. He wrote it like it was an Excel formula or like it was programming, because he writes out EXP with parentheses instead of, if you're just writing on a napkin as a scientist, you would write E to the whatever. So like, I thought that was an unusual way to write it. So I'm going to say that's why I thought it was nothing.
I mean, maybe it was just
what?
So maybe he's had a hangover.
Maybe.
So he's trying to scribble it fast.
There you go.
Anyway, Tony says that he doesn't remember that at all. Killian shows up, and then, man, everything's Thor's fault. Killian says ever since that big dude with the hammer fell out of the sky, and I'm just like, Thor literally is the reason why everybody, like all the bad guys, are coming out of the woodwork in the MCU.
Thor can't catch a break. Killian shows Tony a hologram of Pepper tied up. She got the Extremis treatment, and he doesn't know if it'll take or if she's going to explode.
And then Maya threatens to kill herself if Killian doesn't let Tony go. And then, surprise, he shoots her. The good news is a high-level position has just been vacated. That made me kind of crack up because I was just like, oh, this Killian is a badass motherfucker. He's just ruthless.
Yes.
And then Killian goes to where they have Rhodey apparently is in the same compound in the Iron Patriot suit. And why is he just dangling there? Like, is his suit just completely off? Nothing works?
You can still see the heads-up display though, right?
Right. I would think that his suit would have its own AI too.
I don't know.
Yeah,
or that Jarvis would have access to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so random. And then so he heats up Iron Patriot's stomach to get Rhodey to come out.
Yeah, I just, it seemed like the suit was still turned on, and I don't understand why Rhodey can't use it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyways, while Tony's still tied up, he's pulling some lethal weapon lines on the guard because one of them crushed the watch that Harley had loaned him. Right. And he says something about like, that's why I'm going to kill you first, which I kind of liked. It was kind of funny, but it's been done before, and I didn't really think it necessarily belonged in this movie.
Right. That smart henchman cracked me up. The guy that was like, it's about something miles. And he was like, I'm just good at that.
Oh, yeah.
Some things like that. The guy was pretty funny. But yeah, I guess, I don't know, man. This, like, I get that he was trying to summon his suit, but he just kept waving his hands around randomly and then saying, it's coming now. It just, I don't know, it was just pretty annoying.
It was funny the first 2 times. He does it like 3 or 4 times, I think. I guess he's hoping it's charged up enough.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what that alarm was for on his watch. Right.
Oh, is that why the guy crushed it?
Yeah, because he didn't know to turn it off, and he stepped on it.
One less complaint about this movie.
Back to Rhodey, who also right around this time jumps out of the Iron Patriot, and then Killian breathes fire. Like, why didn't any of them do that at all? The whole movie.
Yeah, before or after. The fire breathing is extra stupid. I'm glad they didn't keep doing it.
Yeah, I'm just like, you're gonna show one power like that. That's actually like interesting. It would be totally useless against the armors, but you guys didn't do it at all, except for this one time when you scare Rhodey.
Tony's still trying to summon his suit. It's kind of funny. Eventually, a glove and a boot show up, but I don't know how they found how does the suit find him? Those little implants that he had in his arm, they can't have a whole lot of range. Certainly not miles, right?
And they're not powered by his arc reactor that we can see, right? And then he shows off his hand-to-hand combat skills again, which surprisingly are pretty good. Kind of reminds me, like, this scene and the other prior scene reminds me of how like Batman trained Superman how to fight in case he ever loses his powers.
Oh, that's interesting.
I was like, I wonder if Captain America trained Iron Man or trained Tony at all in how to fight in case he ever had to.
Like Captain America is more just like slug it out rather than
like a brawler.
Martial arts.
Yeah. That's true. Again, back over here with this whole flying around with one boot and one repulsor glove. How do you even do that without an AI to kind of guide you? Like, that just seems like it wouldn't be instinctual at all.
I don't know. There's so many problems with this movie.
Yeah.
That the whole scene with him fighting with one boot and one glove is like stupidly silly. Eventually, the rest of the suit shows up, and then Tony sees Iron Patriot flying away, but you don't know who's in it. It's not Rhodey because he's still busting his way out of the compound.
And then Rhodey is quite the badass, even without his suit, apparently.
Yeah, he can fight. Iron Man walks down some stairs in another poorly animated way. I don't know what's going on with this movie. He calls Rhodey and asks if he's in the Iron Patriot suit. He's not. And there's 40 minutes left of this movie at this point. And I was praying that there was just like 25 minutes of credits. I had a lot of notes after this point as well. Tony brings Rhodey to meet Trevor Slattery. Trevor tells them about something to do with a big boat off the coast. And I'm not summarizing that. That's almost verbatim what he says, which was kind of funny.
I do know it's happening off the coast. Something to do with a big boat. I can take you there.
He also tells them something about the vice president. Again, I'm not... He's very vague with what he's saying. He doesn't really know what's going on. He spends a lot of his time doing drugs and drinking.
I think that's why he's just funny to me. He's like a hilarious version, just a very hilarious character in this movie.
Yeah.
wasn't so mad that he wasn't really the Mandarin by this time because I was like, okay, I can forgive it.
They take Trevor's lovely speedboat to get out of there, and Tony calls the VP, tells him the bad guys are going to use the Iron Patriot suit as a Trojan horse.
And then we see that, the vice president's kid is missing a leg. No wonder he's a bad guy.
I knew he was the bad guy from the beginning because Miguel Ferrer is always a bad guy.
That's true.
I'm sure that Aldrich must have told him that his daughter would benefit from the Extremis project when it's stabilized. But in any case, the VP doesn't do anything to warn the president because he wants to become president, I guess. So he can help Killian out. Something to that effect.
Yes. He's the new patron.
Yes. Took me a second to understand that. So Rhodey says to Tony, we can either save Pepper or we can save the president. And as far as they know, didn't they just save the president with that phone call?
Yeah.
Right? Because they're assuming that the VP was going to inform the president.
Right.
Spoiler alert, they saved the president and they saved Pepper. So Rhodey, we did not need that line. Sorry, buddy.
And then he walks in with the armor being charged by a 12-volt battery.
Yes.
Which just pissed me off again because I'm like, is it your art reactor? It's like right there in the middle.
Yeah.
Just glowing. Just hook it up to that. Like, what the hell?
Well, they established this it needs to charge thing, so now they got to run with it.
I guess, yeah.
This is also where Jarvis gives Tony an update on the Malibu location and says that the cellar doors are clear. Though he still doesn't run the house party protocol yet. So now your point is valid.
Right.
So the Iron Patriot suit with Savin in it shows up where the president is getting on Air Force One, and the Iron Patriot suit gets on the plane with him, no questions asked. After they take off, he starts killing Secret Service agents, and then off screen, like so you don't see it, he puts the president in the suit, and then the suit takes the president to Killian, which I'm not sure how they made that work. Like I said, as the viewer, you don't know this yet, but it's easier for the podcast just to say it now.
Right.
Savin's about to jump out of the plane and let it crash, but Iron Man shows up on the plane without decompressing it somehow because this is a bad movie.
Right. Even after he broke that window, he just pops out through another door somehow.
I have no idea how he got on. He was just there.
Yeah.
Then Savin possibly disables the Mark 42 somehow with his hot hands. I feel like they're just making this up as they go. Savin blows the door on the airplane, and now it does decompress, and a bunch of people fall out. Then Iron Man, with a repulsor blast, puts a hole in Savin, and it looks like he might really be dead finally.
Yes. He used the chest blast.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah.
He should have done that.
Because both of his hands were tied.
Oh, right. Iron Man goes after the people who fell out of the plane, and then the airplane explodes. I'm assuming because Savin is dead and can no longer regulate. And I guess that's what happens when you're extremist and you die. Jarvis says there's 13 people in the air, but Iron Man can only carry 4. But Tony says he's going to get them all barrel of monkeys style.
I mean, I don't know. This felt like a stretch to me. I was doing the same time check like you were when he was walking down the stairs. I was like, are they just dragging this out? Like, this seems like a completely unnecessary scene.
Yes, yeah. They're adding way too much stuff in. I assumed that when Jarvis said he could only carry 4, I figured that was like a weight limit thing.
Yeah.
Not like a practicality, like you have 4 limbs and somehow you can carry 4 people that way.
Right.
But if that wasn't stupid enough, somebody really fucked this next thing up. Jarvis is giving altitudes as Iron Man is catching the falling people, and I was checking the timestamps. So he says 1,000 feet, and then 2 seconds later, he says 400 feet. 2 seconds after that, he says 200 feet. Then it's another 5 seconds before they catch the last dude and scrape the water. Totally inconsistent. Anyways, he saves all the people and Tony flies off, and he's just over a bridge as he's flying, and he gets creamed by a semi. And the suit gets knocked apart, but he's totally fine because he was flying it remotely from the boat the whole time. And like, what's the lag time on controlling that suit, right? And also, what?
How would it have been able to carry anybody if there was nothing inside to reinforce people being?
I don't know. I would assume it's like an exoskeleton, so it's got its own power. And couldn't you have put like one person in it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
anyways,
too, right?
Well, I guess they would have been creamed by the semi, and that wouldn't have worked out well for them.
Right.
Also, couldn't Jarvis have just done like why does Tony need to pilot it remotely? Couldn't Jarvis do just as good a job or better?
Probably better, right?
Yeah.
Of course, he was piloting the Mark 42 remotely, and the prototypes that he creates, do they normally just without any kind of like radar or situational awareness, like you even try to fly without not having some sort of radar telling you, hey, there's a fast moving object coming up from behind you?
Oh, you mean because Jarvis was having to tell him about what was going on?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just in general, right?
Yeah.
That should have been basic UI when you're flying.
Sounds like you need to start designing Iron Man suit technology.
But it's more fun seeing people try to jump and fly in theirs and fall to the ground.
So we're finally getting to the end of this fucking movie.
Right?
We're almost there.
I gotta admit this, when the house party protocol started, it was the best scene, hands down. Except, like, I was thinking, wait, it was really cool when all the circular lights started turning on, but, like, don't they need Tony's arc reactor to, like, power up?
First of all, I didn't think of that. But now that you mention it, in Iron Man 2, didn't Vanko put a bunch of arc reactors into the drones that he was building for, or that he was modifying for Hammer?
Right.
So I would assume Tony may have done the same thing. Also, when you say best scene, here it's kind of like the best pile of dog shit I ever stepped in. So now we go to the big shipyard harbor, and Aldrich has Pepper in some room there. It's not really clear to me where.
Right.
The Iron Patriot suit walks into the room, and the president gets dropped out of it.
I don't know. All the Iron Patriot scenes make no sense to me. Like, how do they control it so easily? And who was controlling it so easily?
Right. It was like they put it on autopilot or something.
Can't Jarvis hack it and purge it of whatever faulty software was inside it?
Seems likely.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird because the president just like pops out of this thing like it was nothing. He just gets dropped right out of it. Isn't Iron Patriot / War Machine, isn't it just a modded Mark II?
Yeah.
So shouldn't he require like a gantry system to get in and out of that?
No, I don't know. Maybe it was upgraded with the AIM stuff? I don't know.
I guess I was assuming the AIM stuff wasn't hardware. So his plan is to kill the president for allowing the fat cats to not be prosecuted for some oil spill. It's just an excuse to kill him so that the VP can be president because he's got the VP in his pocket.
Right.
Now they have the president strung up over an oil tanker, still in the Iron Patriot suit, which it seems like somebody could just take control of that suit.
Right. And then the house party protocol arrives just in time. And yeah, I don't know. This scene where all of the Iron Man armors showed up, I thought that was pretty glorious. I don't know. Igor made no sense to me. Just like seemed to be a random suit to carry something heavy, I guess.
These are all, these all from the comics, I guess?
No, I mean, I didn't see it in the comic books. It's just the names that came up while he was telling them.
Oh, I didn't see any names.
While they were fighting. Because he was like, Jarvis, tell Igor to like stabilize the platform. Okay. And then the big...
I think I was checked out.
I mean, I don't blame you. Yeah. I only really paid attention to this scene because I was excited that, hey, there's a bunch of armor and Jarvis is piloting all of them. Which to me is like, why don't you pilot Iron Patriot and get the president out of there?
Exactly.
But yeah, some of the armor makes no sense. Like there was that one suit with like 2 pile driver arms.
Yeah.
Like some of them look kind of cool, but then some of them just didn't seem to be any need for them.
Yeah, the house party protocol, it's like definitely a dried up turd I stepped in that barely stuck to my shoe. So it's not that bad. I guess this is where marks 8 through 41 or whatever were this whole time. However many weren't blown up at the beginning of the movie.
Yep.
Tony tells Jarvis to target extremis heat signatures and disable with extreme prejudice without even thinking about the fact that Pepper is extremist now. Then we get a bunch of suits fighting extremist people, which is okay. I wasn't bored by it. One of the suits crashes into where Pepper and Aldrich were and blows up that area. Tony suits up, but Rhodey can't because, quote unquote, the suits aren't coded to him. And couldn't he just blast the Mark 42 onto Rhodey like he did to Pepper earlier on, right?
Couldn't he just have Jarvis code it to Rhodey?
Yeah, exactly. All these lame excuses.
Right? Anyway, it turns out that Rhodey is quite the shooter.
So they locate Pepper, and you guessed it, she's under some rubble. Tony tries to help her, but Killian knocks him down and points his hot finger into the chest of the suit. I don't know why Tony just doesn't blast him at this point.
Right.
Killian goes to do like a back fist strike, but Tony pops a blade out of his fist, RoboCop style, and Killian cuts his own arm off on it, which was kind of cool.
Right.
And then the hot chopped off arm melts to the floor, causing the rubble and therefore Pepper to fall more. Tony gets out of the suit and into another, which was cool, but I don't know why, because the suit he was in to begin with seemed just fine to me. Then we go to Rhodey. He still doesn't have a suit, but he's going to try to save the president. He knocks down some stuff to swing over to the president and ends up dropping two extremist people at the same time because he's efficient. But this causes an explosion below the president. So where Rhodey's swinging to is onto the Iron Patriot suit with the president in it. And he manages to fire one of the hand blasters from outside the suit somehow.
Oh my God. That was my question, was how the hell did he do that? So you just need to stick your finger in between two knuckles or something?
Yeah, I guess so. Anyways, that breaks one of the chains that the suit is strung up by, and they go swinging away from the explosion. Long story short, Rhodey takes the suit back.
Yeah. I don't know, the whole Iron Patriot part bugs me. Like, how does he get the president out of it if the suit's been compromised? Right. How does Rhodey even know the suit isn't compromised and he's just gonna jump into it again? Yeah. What if it like explodes while he's in it? I think why would you jump into a really obviously compromised suit and you're just gonna trust it because you used to ride in it?
Yeah, I mean, they're really not giving the audience much credit here.
Yeah,
certainly not us. Somehow Pepper is precariously hanging off of something and Tony's trying to save her. Unfortunately, Tony can't get to her in time and she drops into the fire below. Aldrich comes to fight Tony, and now Killian can't disable the Iron Man suits for some reason. I would kill for some consistency with any of this movie. Tony's really mixing it up with the suits. He's out of one and into another. I kind of like it here.
Right.
Again, it's at least interesting. It's something to look at and not be bored by. I also I noticed some of the suits have a rectangle light, right? Instead of the circular one. If this was a secret fuck you to Joss Whedon, then this movie sucks just a little bit less for me.
I don't think they did it on purpose.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
Then suddenly Killian can disable the suits again.
Yeah. And then, his clothes burn off. He's a white dude with a total Asian fetish. He has like these dragon tattoos all over his chest. Like, what the hell? Tony blows Killian up by trapping him in the Mark 42.
He blasts the Mark 42 onto Killian like he could have done for Rhodey before, but didn't. Right. Then he tells Jarvis to blow Mark 42, killing Aldrich, maybe.
Nope. He's still alive.
Of course he's not dead. We need to drag this out even longer. Killian walks out of the fire, says something about he was the Mandarin all along. It doesn't make sense.
Yes. And then Pepper shuts him up. She hits a home run and rips an Iron Man gauntlet off of an incoming suit that's trying to basically kill her. And then she rips that gauntlet off and does Extremis make you strategically and tactically enhanced? She just seemed more combat ready, and just fighting was second nature to her. And it was just kind of like, what the hell?
Yeah, apparently it does.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that she was okay.
Yeah, I was glad she was okay. I was glad her clothes were okay too, because I noticed they did not burn off.
Right.
As predicted, a Jarvis-controlled suit tries to attack Pepper because she's extremist. Pepper destroys the suit, fights Aldrich, and blows him up with a missile from the suit or something. I don't know why that kills him when a suit blowing up with him in it did not. And then Tony tells her he thinks he can fix her. I'm skipping over a lot here.
It's okay.
I'm just trying to hit the important stuff.
Yes. And then so Tony blows up all the other armor, the clean slate protocol, which
Ugh.
This makes me kind of sad, but also angry because it just makes no sense. Like it seems like a sloppy way to dispose of really high tech designs. What if somebody were to piece the tech together and create like a Frankenstein armor?
That's what
suit?
they did in the first Iron Man, right?
That's what they did. Yeah, exactly. They did in the first one, and it wasn't that hard apparently.
Yeah, and then, well, not to mention like all those arc reactors, like that could have been used for something. So he blows them all up because Pepper wants them to get rid of the suits. I don't know. I also didn't like that when they explode, they look like fireworks. I thought that was corny.
Right. Yeah. And my journey has reached its end voiceover. And it's just a bunch of cleanup scenes right after that. The VP gets arrested. Trevor gets arrested. And off screen, Tony gets Pepper all sorted out. They don't even show.
No, it's just.
He gets Pepper sorted out.
No, he's just like, I fixed Pepper.
Right.
It's just in the voiceover. Can't he just like cure cancer then? Like
you think
with whatever this was, no problem. He fixed it.
If he can figure out extremis, he should be able to figure out cancer.
Exactly, or like all kinds of things. Now, I guess he figures out time travel later, right? Yeah. Tony gets surgery to remove the shrapnel in his chest so that he doesn't need the arc reactor in his chest anymore. This bothered me. They're showing like the surgery, and the surgeon's taking a piece of metal out of his chest, and he pulls it up a few inches, and then he lets it go, and it like flies up into a magnet in the light. Right. Why? Why would you do surgery that way? Somebody thought that was a cool idea, apparently. No word on what they plugged his chest hole up with.
Silly putty.
Yeah. I feel like he should have at least had some scars when they showed him in Endgame, at the beginning of Endgame, when he had just that robe on and was kind of opened up.
Yeah. And then Happy ends up waking up, and then he seems to have a thing for his nurse. Part of me is like, just wait, Happy. Aunt May is coming.
Yeah.
And then that Harley Keener guy shows up also, and he ends up walking through his garage with all kinds of just product placement. Like the next time you see him, it's at Tony's funeral, and part of me is like, what?
Yeah, nobody knew who he was. Nobody remembered that kid.
Yeah.
They showed Pepper and Tony like maybe getting married. It wasn't clear to me.
They were both wearing white.
I don't know. But I was like, I don't know what else they would have been doing.
Yeah.
So maybe Pepper and Tony got married.
Yeah. And then I guess Tony goes back to his house, or his former house, tosses his arc reactor into the ocean, and part of me is just like why?
Again, why? Why are we doing this? He could have used it to power something.
So sloppy.
And then again, with the voiceover, Tony says that the armor was a cocoon and now he's a changed man. And then they force in the I am Iron Man line at the very end. There's a credits montage with various stills from the movie, and it's done in like an 80s action cop show kind of credit style. I thought that was kind of cool. I think that might have been the best part of the movie. There's no mid-credit stinger. There's more voiceover near the end of the credits, and it cuts to Tony in a therapy chair. And this whole time he's been talking to Bruce Banner, who says he nodded off at the elevator in Switzerland part. That was kind of funny.
I'm sorry, I'm not that kind of doctor line cracked me up a little bit.
All right. Changes we'd like to have seen. I'd like to get the time I spent watching this movie back.
Yeah.
End of changes.
I'd like another Iron Man 3.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like, let's just redo that one.
Right.
All right. Let's get down to ranking this turd. Rotten Tomatoes says the critics have it at 80% and the audience has it as 78%, which I cannot believe it is that high. Those are Captain America numbers. I don't get it. I don't understand what there was to love about this movie. I've seen worse movies, but this is not a good. This is the worst of the MCU for me.
Yeah. Hard pass is definitely not 80% for me, or 78, even 50.
No.
Yeah, there was a bunch of problems in general. Like when Rhodey was forced out of the suit, how do they reprogram it to take the president hostage and then bring him to the evil lair? And then when the president is in the Iron Patriot armor, how does Rhodey activate the repulsor blast from the outside? I know we went over all of this, but like, man, it's just like one thing after another. I was thinking in my head, like, it would have been really nice for Jarvis to actually analyze Killian's fighting style so that he could counter it properly like he did with Captain America.
Right. That wasn't until Civil War though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe he could have done it here. It would have been a good move.
I feel like he could have done it. I think my final takeaway with Tony is in Iron Man 3, he just seems less like a genius and more like I'll build it and overcome challenges just through sheer brawn, like kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't do anything really genius like, and he's more, I think like the kid said, he's more like a mechanic that just kind of builds stuff.
Right.
But that like hella oversimplifies Tony Stark.
Yeah.
And I get they're trying to set up this whole, that story arc in Avengers 2 where he's like, I want to build a suit of armor around the world. But like, so much of this movie is just so forced and so like sloppy.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I've always had this on the bottom of the list. It's going to stay at the bottom of my list, and I'm pretty sure our list.
Right.
All the voiceover is lazy. I'm a show don't tell guy. Although this movie is already too long, so maybe that was how they shortened it. The whole thing is a disservice to Tony Stark, as you were saying. He's not the genius that he is in the first two Iron Man movies. Yeah. And he's got kind of a toxic masculinity energy in this one. In the last movie, it was Captain America that was a problem, and this one, it's Tony. Yeah. I also found Happy to be a little bit unlikable, and feel like this wasn't really an Iron Man movie. It was like the adventures of Tony Stark, right? Yeah. It's not unwatchable, but it's pretty close. I'm not gonna watch it again anytime soon. Maybe never again. The one thing that I did like, it came way too late in the movie, but there was some pretty good banter between Tony and Rhodey. I will always like that.
Yep.
The movie, it wasn't boring, but it's a long movie and it feels long. It's easily the worst in the MCU, and I'm pretty confident that any other MCU movie released before today is not going to unseat this one for the bottom of the list. So normally I would, sure? I'm pretty sure. I said pretty sure. Normally I would go through the ranking just so we know what's what, but I'm pretty sure we're both going to put this below Iron Man 2, which is our current bottom, at number 6.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we even need to do the trivia pursuit?
I'd like to do it. It's fun. Okay. We've done it before.
Just we both agree that this is at the bottom of the list.
We've done this before just for fun. So, all right. So Iron Man 3 goes in at number 7, bottom of the list. We will see how long it stays that way. And then we'll just play Infinity Saga Trivial Pursuit Poker for fun. We actually got through this episode a lot faster than I thought we would too. Okay, let's read.
1,000 feet. 400 feet. 200 feet, sir.
It's a chunky monkey. Let's get him. Hello.
You've read them all?
Yes.
Okay. I think I have 2.
Oh, okay.
Do you think you can do more?
I've got 4, I think.
Okay. So you're gonna bid 4?
Sure.
Okay. I was gonna say I don't have any of them. I was gonna say 3 and hope that you bid 4, but I was like, I don't want to get stuck trying to answer 3 of these. I might have 1 or 2, but I don't think so. All right, let me find the answers. Okay, here we go. Number 1. Seeing a framed photo of himself and who else inspires Tony Stark to attempt to solve the time heist navigation problem?
Peter Parker.
That's correct. I did not have that one. I thought I was going to guess some scientist, but what is written on a sticky note on Jonathan Pangborn's file when Doctor Strange receives it?
I don't know. I don't know this one.
Told you so. I couldn't even tell you which Doctor Strange movie that's from, or if it's from one of the Avengers. What is the name of the tree world?
The tree of the world be Yggdrasil?
Yeah, I knew you had that one.
Yeah.
What is the name of Ronan's ship?
I don't know this one.
The Dark Aster.
Ah, dang it.
I had no clue.
Yeah.
What area in New York do Hulk and Abomination nearly destroy with their ruthless battle?
Brooklyn.
That was what I was going to guess. It's Harlem.
Oh, it's Harlem? Oh, dang.
I haven't been keeping track of how many you got right. I guess because it doesn't matter.
I only got 2 right.
You got Peter Parker, Yggdrasil. Yeah, you got 2 so far. So yeah, so I win. But what is the title of the leader of the mystic arts practitioners on Earth?
the Sorcerer Supreme.
That is also correct. So you got 3, but you bid 4, so I win, but it doesn't count.
So I lost.
So Iron Man 3 is still at the bottom.
Right.
All right.
I was like, Thor 2 is next.
That was fun. That was the best part of this episode. Well, that's it for Iron Man 3. Thank Christ for that. Next up, we have Thor: The Dark World, also from 2013. It was about a 6-month wait between movies here. I'm not super stoked for this one either, but it's not as bad as Iron Man 3. Did you watch it yet?
No.
I actually did.
I'm really bracing myself.
I did. I was shocked at how much I didn't remember. I don't understand how I could see that movie multiple times and not remember most of it. Anyways, I didn't think it was nearly as bad as Iron Man 3.
I'm hopeful now then. Yeah. Maybe I should be careful about how hopeful I get.
If Iron Man 3 is your favorite MCU movie, please email us at absolutelythebestpodcast@gmail.com. Check the show notes for our socials. Please help us spread the word. Tell your friends, tell a geneticist, and tell the President of the United States. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.
Absolutely the Best Podcast is a production of Audio Johnny, a subsidy of Corporation Johnny.
Corporation Johnny. If it exists, we own it.